Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Sex, lies, politics. Scandals, protests, lack of tolerance, social engineering, marketing, psyops. We haven't learned anything. Tonight, sex scandals top the agenda. And the million-person march. We'll also talk about that because unions in Canada. Unions are organizing what's supposed to be a massive countrywide, I guess it's countrywide, counter-protest against this million-person march, which is all centered around concerns about drag queen story times and LGBTQS plus stuff. And man, people are jacked. And I've had some people say, don't worry about it. It's nothing. It's not going to be a big deal. No, man, it's getting to be a pretty big deal. The people organizing the million-person march. Yesterday, I heard that there were 77 cities and towns that had organized marches in their communities. Today, I'm hearing from these organizers that it's 100. This is Canada. Do we even have 100 cities and towns? 100. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if it's true. That's what they're saying. Now, there is a meeting, a Zoom meeting that some of Canada's labor leaders, these are like some of the biggest unions in the country. Ontario Federation of Labour, Canadian Labour Congress, CUPE. There are others. They're involved in this meeting. It's supposed to be super secret. The people in the meeting were told, we're going to record it for anyone who needs it for notes or whatever, but then they said something, I don't know, but they promised it wouldn't be used. But somebody in that meeting wanted to make it public. So it's very public now. It's out there on social media. We have a copy. We have a link. It's out there. And I don't like what I'm hearing. Don't like it one bit. I mean, I don't like much of what I'm hearing, period. All the way around. Everybody's fighting. Don't like it. That's my personal opinion. I don't want to fight. I don't want people fighting. All right? I'd like to get to a place where people can talk to each other and solve some darn problems and not have to beat each other's throats. But man, people are jacked. And we've been watching this evolve over the past, well, especially the past year. Drag queen story time. Save the children. Let's go have another protest. Oh my God. What is a woman? What is a man? And it's just gone on, and and grown and become more polarizing. We're going to get into it a little bit tonight. I've been trying to honestly not talk about it a whole lot because it is so inflammatory. And it's going to happen, what's going to happen is going to happen. But this is just, it's just too big to ignore. It's news, and I'm going to report on it. And I'm going to give you some of my opinions on it too. Because I think some of you young whippersnappers out there who aren't that young, but you're younger than I am, you haven't learned anything from the past, including the Prime Minister. I think he could use a little reminder from his dad. So we'll give him that later in the broadcast. Not too much later on, but I'm going to remind him of something his dad said that would serve the country well now. And I'm worried. I honestly am. Because I'm seeing this rise of extremism on both sides. All sides. People being pushed out to the extremes politically. Feeling like they have no home, or they're being forced to pick a side. That's terrible. Terrible thing. Now is the time. You must pick a side. Yeah, really? Got to pick a side? Or else what? I'm not, you know what, man? Like, I don't like any of it. That's why I'm kind of out here dangling kind of alone a lot of the time now, these days. I don't like what I'm seeing anywhere. I don't see good things happening. I'm like, I don't know, man. What do I have to do? Start my own political movement? The reasonable movement? The not super duper extreme political movement over here. The let's talk instead of kill each other movement. The let's give peace a chance movement. How about that one? That'd be a good one. The let's stop fighting and acting stupid movement. How about the grow the F up movement? That'd be a good one. Yeah. Keep your nose out of other people's business movement. How about that one? More about it. Sex scandals, sex. It's all about sex. This whole darn show is pretty much about sex tonight, except a little bit of climate change. Because there's this climate summit in New York City, blah, blah, blah. There's probably some sex element to that, too. It's all about sex right now. Which is exactly where we shouldn't be politically, because sex and politics don't really mix very well. Just try to avoid it as much as possible. But oh no, they can't do that. They can't. They gotta throw gasoline on that spark and watch it blow up. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
All right. I'm going to save all this stuff about the secret video and the the secret Zoom meeting that's now totally out there, out of the closet. Jeez. I'm going to save that. We're going to start with some of the sex scandals. Ooh. From this week. Involving celebrities and politicians. Where shall I begin? Okay. Well, we all know about the Russell Brand thing, right? Okay. So, tonight, Russell Brand accused still of, sexual assault by a number of women. And the BBC is now urgently looking into the allegations, taking them very, very seriously. Oh, we didn't know anything from before, and now, of course, it's, this is very, very concerning, and we're urgently looking into issues raised by the Brand report. Yes, Britain's BBC said on Sunday it was urgently looking into the issues raised by allegations of sexual assault made against the broadcaster's former employee, British comedian and actor Russell Brand, who denies the accusations. Brand, who, 48 years old, the former husband of U.S. singer Katy Perry, worked on BBC radio programs between 2006 and 2008. He issued a denial on Saturday to unspecified, very serious criminal allegations, hours before the accusations of sexual assaults, including rape, were published online by the Sunday Times newspaper and later aired on Channel 4 television. Oh, man. All right. So you got this Times documentary show called Dispatches. It reported that these incidents had taken place between 2006 and 2013. One woman had made an allegation of rape, while another said Brand assaulted her when she was 16 and still at school. Two of the accusers reported that the incidents occurred in Los Angeles. And of course, as we told you yesterday, Russell Brand said it's just not true. It's, and I don't know, man. When it comes to these celebrity sex assault scandal things, I always take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. You take it kind of seriously, but at the same time, take a little grain of salt because there's so much money involved. So there's heavy-duty motivation for some people to, go after the money. Money has a funny way of skewing truth sometimes. But that being said, on the other side of things, celebrity status is also power. Oh, and it's so scandalous. It's a ratings builder, isn't it? And we've seen in the past, of course, media organizations, just kind of looking the other way, and people involved, everybody kind of looking the other way, pretending, that things aren't the way they are, or tolerating it, or maybe, I think maybe more accurately, the community standards were somewhat different years ago. People, I think it was kind of like, it's like when I was a kid, I was going to elementary school. It was very common all day, every day, for kids to call other kids the F word. Not the FU word, the FA blank word. Or you're an effing FA thing, okay? All the time. But that changed over time. The standards were different at that time. You could say stuff like that and no one would bat an eye. In fact, it was just commonplace. And that was in elementary school, and I didn't like it. I hated it. It drove me crazy. Even when I was a kid, I was like, what the hell is wrong with you people? These being my classmates, right? Why are you talking like that? Why do you have to be so mean? It didn't matter if you were gay or you weren't. They were still calling you that. Everybody was calling everybody that. But, it was just, it was a different time. And so the community standards were different. Now, you apply the standards of today retroactively and hold people accountable for their actions back then. And And some of the stuff that went on back then seems kind of horrific. I'm not excusing anything that Russell Brand might have done. I'm just saying that when you look at, even Bill Cosby and the charges laid against him, and everything that kind of went on back then, the sexual revolution, I think people had a hard time coping with it, grappling with it, these rapid changes in the way men and women interacted, the relationships. Birth control changed everything. It liberated sexuality. It was this, the sexual revolution. And we're still going through the shockwaves of that today. It makes me think, just a little history here, but it makes me think of Hugh Hefner, who kind of brought sex out into the mainstream. He commercialized it. And, you all know who Hugh Hefner was, Playboy emperor, right? Playboy Mansion, his Playboy bunnies, gone now, passed away. But, he made a fortune, truly built an empire, and started his empire in the 1950s with Marilyn Monroe on the cover of his first magazine. He bought those pictures, by the way, for $500 when she was just struggling. She posed nude and under a different name. He found the pictures later, bought the rights to them, not from her, but from the photographer for just $500. And those photos became beyond famous. And that was the base that he built upon. And he created the whole Playboy empire. Yeah. And he did that several times. He bought nude photos of Madonna. Same sort of scenario. Got them cheap. Vanna White. Same sort of thing. And Bob Guccione of Penthouse Magazine did a lot of that too. Did many of those kinds of things. Bringing sex out into the open, into the mainstream, commercializing it. And you talk about free speech, and it's, sex stuff, sex publications, like even Hustler magazine and Larry Flint. Check out the movie with Woody Harrelson. I mean, you get to explore the issue of censorship and free speech, freedom of expression within that movie. And in today's context, that's as important as ever, isn't it? But community standards have certainly changed over time. What people do in the bedroom is kind of on full display quite often these days, even on social media. You can go on Twitter today and look at pornographic images, pornographic videos. No restrictions, really. Kids have access to it, no problem. But I'm old enough, and I'm getting old. I remember when none of that stuff was available. Not to that degree. Not that kind of explicit material. Playboy. That was, when I was a kid, that was kind of the most explicit stuff you could get. Everything else was in the bedroom, and kind of out of sight. Certainly not accessible to kids. And television, prime time, squeaky clean, man. You would never hear the F word. But today you can turn on any specialty channel and hear the F word all day long. You hear it on social media. You've heard it right here on this program many times. Standards have changed. They sure have. But even today, well, you know what? I'm going to run that clip of Russell Brand, okay? So here's a guy who's struggling now because he's been accused of sexual assault and even rape. He's denying it. He's worth about $20 million, this guy. So, he's not He's not starving. So there's incentive there to go after some coin with these women. But you have multiple allegations and so on. Scandal, scandal, scandal. Here he is. We ran this yesterday. I'll rerun it here.
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Now, this isn't the usual type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack, and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received two extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff, like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? Particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before, like with Joe Rogan, when he dared to take a medicine that the mainstream media didn't approve of. And we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out, Russell, they're coming for you, you're getting too close to the truth. Russell Brand did not kill himself. I know that a year ago there was a spate of articles, Russell Brand's a conspiracy theorist, Russell Brand's right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and ages. It's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these kind of voices. And I mean my voice along with your voice. I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous consensual conduct in the past. What I seriously refute are these very, very serious criminal allegations. Also, it's worth mentioning that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack. Now, I don't want to get into this any further because of the serious nature of the allegations, but I feel like I'm being attacked, and plainly they are working very closely together. We are obviously going to look into this matter because it's very, very serious. In the meantime, I want you to stay close, stay awake, but more important than any of that, if you can, please stay free.
So we'll see if Russell Brand is canceled in this latest. Well, what is it? Is it hang on, I need to get this video out of my head. There we go. Audio is playing in my headphones. Is this some cancel culture attack? Are these really serious sexual assault allegations? We just have to let it play out. Look at what happens with the evidence. Let the evidence come to the surface, and we'll assess at that time. I don't know. How can I possibly know? All we have is an accusation and a denial at this point. And I should note that these women, so far, according to all the information I have at this point, they haven't even gone to police. So they haven't filed a complaint with police. They're just making these allegations, and it looks like there might be some sort of a lawsuit that follows. Again, just give it some time. But he's not the only one involved in a scandal. We're talking about Hugh Hefner and changing community standards. Pornhub. It's one of the biggest websites, most heavily trafficked websites in the world. And there was this undercover video with a Pornhub executive this week that and where this guy talks about even rapists. He says even rapists produce videos and then upload them to the website using, well, they're referring to it as some sort of a loophole to make a lot of money on Pornhub, because it's set up, it's like a tube type website. So even though they have content they upload, provide, and monetize by selling, they also allow people to upload content, and other people can make money on the site as well, I guess. So I think what they're getting at here is there are videos where footage is shot without consent in a variety of different scenarios, and then it's made public in that way. So this is a scandal that is sort of unfolding, but it also shows the change in community standards. And, well, this stuff has been going on for a very long time, and people are obviously aware of exactly what Pornhub does. And I'm not saying that they are necessarily doing anything illegal. Again, you have to assess this on your own. And if this should play out in court somehow, then we'd need to see where the evidence leads. But this is, well, it's concerning. And it shows that there is definitely a change in the way people view sexuality today. Pornography is just so readily available everywhere. And it's not only just available, people are engaged in making it themselves and then monetizing it in unprecedented ways. Whether it's through these, live chat room things where, women, what do they call it? Camming? Right. So they sit on websites and have webcams rolling, and people send them money to get them to do things. And then there's this undercover video that was shot this week. And listen to this.
Like, that wouldn't hold in court. That would be the loophole that I look at that and I'm like, that's stupid, but everybody is just kind of rolling with it.
Why don't they just roll with it? Why don't they say something?
It costs money.
Who exploits the
A
loophole?
lot. Fucking everybody. Everyone. You make a lot of money.
Do rapists use it, or?
Of course. We've brought it up to the CPO, we've brought it up to the CLO, and they're both telling us it's all good. And the CPO is especially telling us, like, fuck off, it's all good. Like, stop.
So they know the risk.
Shut up.
So this is Mike Farley, technical product manager at MindGeek, which is the parent company of Pornhub, which is, I believe Pornhub is a Canadian company, actually.
It's all good. I'm not gonna get caught. It's fine.
But what if, the government was to find out about this loophole? What would they do?
I don't know. They're not gonna do shit. They'll do nothing. They're dumb. They don't know shit. They're not qualified to identify the loophole.
Meet Mike Farley. Farley is a product manager at Pornhub who has been working at Pornhub for more than 10 years. In fact, Farley tells our undercover reporter he was one of Pornhub's first employees.
I stick around because when we first made the site, there was when I got hired there was 6 people. And now we're 300.
Wait, 10 years ago there were 6 people at Pornhub?
Yeah.
Pornhub is the most trafficked pornography website and one of the most trafficked websites overall in the world. Pornhub is commonly called a tube site, allowing the general public to upload videos. Pornhub's parent company, MindGeek, now rebranding as ALO, owns many big-name porn sites. News reports and lawsuits have claimed Pornhub is complicit in abusers uploading illegal videos, and Pornhub has publicly claimed to have cleaned up its site. We sent an undercover journalist to talk with Mike Farley and other MindGeek employees to get the truth. Watch the following admissions.
Do you think anything slips through the cracks?
Of course. 100%.
How?
I don't know, because it's stupid. Because at the end of the day, it's how are you going to tell me, who's in that video if the girl's not showing her face? You're, trying to match boobs and birthmarks on their butts and stuff. You're trying to, I know this guy's dick, man. That's definitely this guy.
So
Come on,
someone
man.
could still lie and get around it.
Because it's stupid. Because it's like, I could be a content uploader, and the only thing you need from me is like, you don't need a picture of my dick. You need an ID, right? You need my driver's license, which has my face on it. It has just my face on it. You don't see my body on it. And now my videos never have my face.
Yeah.
But you have to be like, no, like that guy's body and his dick matches his face. Like that's what compliance people are basically saying. But it's like tried it, like that wouldn't hold in court. You know what I mean? Like that's so subjective. It's not factual. It's your opinion. Like you think that, okay? But you can't really guarantee that. That would be the loophole that I always like. I look at that and I'm like, that's stupid. But everybody is just kind of rolling with it.
Why don't they just roll with it? Why don't they say something?
It costs money. It would be counterintuitive to the business. You basically don't want to make your company more compliant than it has to be, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's just wasted money. Like, not only does it cost money to make it compliant, you're reducing the income because of that too. You're spending money on making less money.
Pornhub allows anyone to upload pornographic videos as long as the person uploading shows an ID, such as a driver's license. However, Farley describes a major loophole. These supposedly verified uploaders can upload videos of people without showing their faces, and Pornhub does not verify these videos contain consenting adults. These uploaders can then monetize these videos to gain a share of Pornhub's ad revenue. Our journalist later asked if abusers actually use this loophole.
Who exploits the loophole?
Fucking everybody. Everyone. So you make a lot of money. So for example, like I could sign up tomorrow, I submit my ID, I'm putting all my real identification, my bank account and everything, and now I just rip content from other people where it's like, this guy's like body and his dick look like it could be mine based on my face. I don't know, some shit like that, right? Like, okay, I'm tall, I'm slim, okay, this guy, okay, whatever, he looks kind of similar. Okay, just rip those videos, upload them as my own, and the people who review my video would probably be like, yeah, this is him in the video. Be like, yeah, it's close enough. And now I'm gonna make thousands of dollars. I didn't do shit. It's just an easy way to make money.
What's like the worst that could happen with a loophole like that?
Including for who?
I mean,
Us?
do like, no, like, do rapists use it or?
Of course. Of course.
What about like
Uh-huh.
human traffickers or something? Like, could they use that loophole?
To do what? To make money? Of course.
Yeah,
We've had content partners like, of course.
you can get that.
Who these content partners are, we're still trying to find out. Farley says he has brought up this loophole to officers of the company, but even the chief product officer has told him to, quote, shut up.
You said there is
A lot more where that came from.
a loophole where it's obvious that faces on IDs,
Yeah.
you can't match the body.
But that's not this is more like, that's a business decision of the VP level.
The VP.
Like the CPO knows, and as long as like we made a meeting where we're like, yo, like it's like kind of sketch, man, and he's just like, yeah, well, like that's what we're saying, like it's okay, like that.
Wait, he said what?
Like he's basically saying it's okay, because like
What's okay?
because the CPO of the company is like the chief product officer, so he just wants to make money as much as possible and grow his product. And then you have Matt Calici, who's like the VP, chief legal officer, so it's like CLO, I guess. And his job is like putting sticks in this guy's wheels. You know what I mean? By being like, yo, that's not okay, yo, that's not okay. Like he's the one he's got the foot on the brake, and the other guy's got the foot on the gas. You know. And obviously, like the CPO is not gonna do anything more compliant than is asked by the CLO, right? And this isn't something that the CLO is worried about.
Underage
well, not that vaguely, but like the specific issue of like people's driver's license or like their IDs that are telling us like who you are. Like, you're giving me your driver's license, it's gonna be just your face. I don't know what your body looks like, right? And now on a video, I'm supposed to like assume that it's you or not you based on your body, but maybe you're not showing your face in the video, which is very common, right? It's like adult content. A lot of people making thousands, they're never showing their face, but their ID is just their face. You can't ask somebody to upload your like head to toe naked ID. Like, you can't ask that. Like, legally, you can't ask that.
So the VP's okay with
The CLO is not, like, to him, it's not, I guess it's not a concern. Like, it's not something he's imposing on the CPO. We think it's fucking retarded, so we've brought it up to the CPO, we brought it up to the CLO, and they're both telling us it's all good. And the
So that's from Sound Investigations. You can see the whole video at soundinvestigations.com. But you got the bulk of what's going on there. And so it's partly a copyright thing. It's also about whether people have actually consented. And you can see that the standards and the checks and balances are pretty lax over there. But that, again, I think is a reflection of changing attitudes in our society. You know, on over here, you have people getting the smelling salts out because, oh, Russell Brand is, you know, sexual assault charges. And then over there, it's like, how many of those people who have the smelling salts out are actually over on Pornhub, the number 12 website listed in terms of traffic in the entire world? Obviously, a lot of people are viewing content over there that some of it, if that video is accurate and true, some of the content that people are viewing would involve non-consensual sex, which is illegal. But over here, Russell Brand is in trouble. And he's not the only one who's suffering. Public relations. Well, what can I say? He's not the only one suffering in the court of public opinion. I hate to use that phrase again. There's this Virginia Democrat politician who got herself into some hot water by making a pornographic, about a dozen pornographic videos with her husband. And that also is a story that kind of came out this week. Wanted to touch on that. I had this thing queued up for you. And looks like that story has been misplaced. I'll tell you what, let me re-queue it. And we'll take a quick break. It'll only take me a moment to get the content up that I'm looking for. Yeah, so let me take a quick break and I'll re-queue that, and we'll come back and we'll tell you about this politician who was raising money for a good cause. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind.
Susana Gibson. That's the politician, Virginia Democrat, House candidate. She made some sex videos with her husband online on I believe the website's called Chatterbait. And she did it for tips. And it became public, and now she's suffering the suffering the consequences of that, dealing with it. There's a screenshot from her website for her campaign, standing up to special interests. Vote Susana Gibson for delegate. Early voting starts at September 22nd, just around the corner. She's a nurse practitioner. She says here she's a wife, a mother of two, a seasoned nurse practitioner, and an accomplished public health specialist. Her family has embraced Western Henrico as their home for more than a decade, inspired by her genuine passion for ensuring the well-being of the community. So here's some photos of her. Now so she's made these videos, and here's the thing. They came out. Someone revealed that she'd made these things. And of course they're out in the public, right? What do you expect, especially if you're going to run for public office? And there's a shot from one of the videos that is still up. And so she's involved in a sex scandal where she had sex with her husband, but they were doing it online in one of these like chat rooms, I guess. And if she did certain things, then people would donate more money, or would donate money, period. And she was streaming these sex acts on Chatterbait. And so sometimes these videos are archived and then they become available on other websites. And as I say, they made about a dozen of these things. And it's sex, 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 isn't it? And so now it's becoming an issue for her as she seeks public office. So the most recent videos were two videos archived on September 30th of last year. Not exactly clear when the videos were first made and streamed, but they surfaced online in September of last year again, and now getting public attention, and that's a bit of an embarrassment for her. So it's actually not hard to find them now, because now that there has been public attention focused on them, you can do a simple Google search and you can actually find the video. It's out there. Now I found it, but I'm not gonna show you or run anything from it, because she's complaining, saying that it's a violation of her privacy. And she's saying it's kind of like a women's issue. She came out and said it's an illegal invasion of my privacy designed to humiliate her and her family. She says, it won't intimidate me and it won't silence me. My political opponents and their Republican allies have proven they're willing to commit a sex crime to attack me and my family because there's no line they won't cross to silence women when they speak up. So she has a lawyer. His name is Daniel P. Watkins. And he's disseminating the videos constitutes a violation of the state's revenge porn law, which makes it a Class 1 misdemeanor to maliciously distribute nude or sexual images of another person with intent to coerce, harass, or intimidate. So they had over 5,700 followers on that website. And these videos were out there in the public. Of course, people are going to find out. So she can complain all she wants, but she did what she did. The funny thing is, I don't think people are really judging her that harshly, but it's politics, right? So now she based on what she says in these videos, where she's like, she says, if cover your ears if you're easily offended. She says things like, if you want to see me pee, you have to pay money or whatever. So, and then she offered to have certain kinds of sex with her husband if people paid money. And needless to say, it has been embarrassing for her to some degree. Although I don't think modesty is really her forte. But that's okay. I'm not going to sit here and judge. Honestly, I don't really care. I'm just bringing it up because everything in this news cycle right now just about everything seems to have something to do with sex. All the stuff at the top of the news this week, today. This being one of those stories, still unfolding. And you look at the way that the media has treated this story with her. Well, let's take a look at this clip from the Gutfeld show where they talk about it. And it's for them, it's great material for a few laughs, right? Because I don't think that they really care that much either. Here.
On this.
Yeah.
What do you say about this? What's amazing to me is that this married couple has kids, and I just feel more boring than ever, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, who cares? I mean, you've got one life to live. If you want to live it kinky, go ahead. Mm-hmm. I can't believe that this doesn't bother me at all. Who cares that her husband do this? Go ahead and do this. The stuff about her that bothers me is more along the lines of like, oh, she wants more gun control laws.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that affects other people.
That's
you want to
true.
go ahead and do that, then looks like she's having a good time. So.
No, it's a good point. This is overshadowing her. I don't even know what her stance is on it. I don't know her positions.
I'm glad.
Cost you.
Well, oh man, I'm gonna get in so much trouble.
I didn't even see that one coming, but it was good.
Gutfeld.
No, stop, dirty minds.
He's not informed, okay? I happen to know all her positions.
Okay.
She's on all fours for everything. She just wants to bring everything together. It doesn't have to be missionary sometimes, Sometimes you just got to cowboy up and just get those things in there. Votes and
Yes,
laws.
Yes.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
I'm telling
It's
you.
his birthday and you besmirch him with your filth.
Yeah. What is
But-
happening?
Listen, if you want to do stuff with your husband or wife and put it on video, listen, that's your funeral. That's not nice. This will be fun in a divorce. But we've gotten to a point where most people are just happy that it was a husband and wife and normalized, because if you want to start going there, we've got a cast of characters in the current administration that I think would be much happier if they were doing what somebody had vows with and putting on video with some of the stuff we're seeing. Like, you can't even have your luggage at the airport.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we've got some really wild, weird stuff going on. We have principals who have been arrested for child pornography. Like, we have all kinds of stuff going on. This is almost refreshing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's refreshing. It didn't hurt anybody else except the person who overtipped.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. You know, Riley, I think you're 23, right?
I am.
So I apologize.
I just want to know what the good cause is. Like, what's the good cause?
The betterment of our Constitution.
Do you have any feelings, thoughts, or cares about this?
Maybe. I have not been exposed to this long enough, but to hear this is refreshing. I don't know if I agree with that. This is
It's an ugly world out there.
Oh my gosh, I'm realizing very quickly.
Yes.
Thanks, Keith Olbermann. It's a slap in the face to so many, and I think most importantly, the matrimony of what marriage is, in my perspective.
I think it's a good look for women, though, because her sex scandal, again, was with their own husband.
Yeah, and Tyrus is right. So many gross things are going on right now, and you talk about Sam Brinton stealing luggage, you got Hunter Biden, there's two other people I can't mention because I live with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's the lesser of two things, but listen, everyone has a little something, and it seems like it's all coming out of their closet. And women on this one, they get it right. They have scandals with their husbands. Yeah. Men have scandals with other things and stuff.
Yes,
like
Anthony Weiner.
And bodies end up pulled out of or bodies end up in a car in the bottom of a lake. You know what I'm saying? Like, women don't, well, it happened.
Yeah. All right, I guess we should, do you want me to go?
Yeah. But here we are, like, sex sells, right? Sex can also kill careers. Russell Brand, will he survive this? Will that Democrat politician survive this? Will she get elected? Will it hurt her chances? I don't know. I mean, the Democrats, what do they care? They gave an award to Stormy Daniels in New York City. All because she was attacking Donald Trump. And she's a porn star, world famous porn star, Stormy Daniels. Democrats don't have standards when it comes to stuff like that, man. But sex scandal, sex scandal, sex scandal, sex scandal. It just goes on. What else do I have for you tonight? But we're going to come back to the sex stuff. Well, you know what? Let's get into the Million Person March, because you know what? That's all related to sex too. And this is really where I'm going with this stuff tonight. You know, sex. Should it be in the bedroom? Should it be in the closet? Should be like sex. People just they just got to get in everybody else's business, or they want to make their business other people's business these days. Nobody can just kind of mind their own business. The government, they want to get involved. They want to politicize this. The Prime Minister in Canada, he certainly has politicized sex. This Million Person March, it's all about the politicization of sexuality in the most serious of ways. It involves our kids, it involves our schools, it involves adults, it involves privacy, it involves public displays of sexual preference and even sexuality. It involves the glorification, the transformation, and it's all rooted in politics. Really volatile, dangerous combo. When we come back, we'll talk about and show you this super secret Zoom meeting involving some of Canada's most prominent labor leaders who have become, well, I won't say they've become political activists on the culture war front, because they've been activists for quite a long time. It's just that now, through the release of this super secret Zoom meeting, it's on full display for all to see. Hang tough. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. At least that's the way the saying goes, right? Well, maybe that's what we're experiencing now. I remember when I was a kid, as I said before, times were different. For gay people, I don't think it was a good time. When I was very, very young, I remember the way people talked about gay people. Really, really negative. I know that it wasn't uncommon for gay people to just get beaten up. True. I have to face that. I was wrong. I mean, I was a kid, back then, but even as a kid, I was sort of aware of stuff like that went on. But over time, as the 70s became the 80s and the 80s became the 90s, things changed. And we saw more acceptance, more tolerance. Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Justin's father, was instrumental in bringing that tolerance forward, in making society a safer place for people of all sexual orientations. And for that, I think, and with that, he made the country a better place. It was Pierre Elliott Trudeau who coined the phrase, the state has no place in the bedrooms of the nation. That was in 1967, at the time. And it was that, he was the justice minister at the time. And that was one of the key phrases that helped propel him to the prime ministership, into the PMO's office. He, to really international political superstardom. It was stuff like that that fueled Trudeau mania, that helped him kick off this progressive march, honestly, toward what we're experiencing today in terms of globalism, a globalist form of governance here in Canada. But at the same time, he did have nationalistic tendencies. But on this particular issue, you know, I think that he was able to kind of strike a balance that resonated with the public and reflected the community standards of the time. That really, if they were in play today, I think we'd be much better off. Because what he said about the state having no place in the bedrooms of the nation, it was the right tone to strike as the sexual revolution was taking hold. The country needed that, and I think we need that back today. I'm going to roll this. Hopefully I don't get too much of a copyright strike on it, but here we go.
It's bringing the laws of the land up to contemporary society, I think. Take this thing on homosexuality.
Yeah, homosexuality. I think the view we take here is that...
I think the view we take here is that there's no place for the state in the bedrooms of the nation, and I think that, what's done in private between adults doesn't concern the criminal code.
You're right. Unless it's done in public.
When it becomes public, this is a different matter.
So, state has no place in the bedrooms of the nation. Basically, sexuality is a private matter, especially if it's in your own home. If it's done in public, it becomes a different matter. Balance. Homosexuality, we don't care what people do between consenting adults in their own homes or in private. Don't care. But you take that out into the public, then it becomes a different matter. So if you have sex in the middle of the street, you might have a bit of a problem with the criminal code. If you engage in sex and it's not consensual, then you might have a bit of a problem. If you do something in public, like walk down the street naked, you might have a problem. But somehow we've lost our way under our current prime minister. And why do I say that? Because everything has been flipped upside down. And so what our government has done under Justin Trudeau is sexuality has been pulled out of the bedroom and thrust into the public light, into the public square, into public parades, into public schools. And they are not just encouraging, but actually trying to enforce acceptance, not just tolerance. They've gone beyond tolerance, which is a phrase that Justin Trudeau has used in the past. We have to go beyond tolerance. If you go beyond tolerance, you're getting into coercion. Because what's beyond tolerance? That's forced acceptance. Anything that's forced isn't tolerance, that's coercion. It's like you have to like this or else. You have to accept this or else. You have to embrace it. You actually have to like it. You're going to like this or else. And I think that's kind of where we're at. It's like you're going to accept this or else. So if you're a Christian, you must accept and you must like homosexuals. And if you're a homosexual It doesn't work the other way. You don't necessarily have to like the Christians because we're telling them that they have to like you. And that's based, I think, on this whole mentality of victimhood, where we know that in the past, people from the LGBTQS plus communities have been subjected to abuse. So, it's like any other victimized group. If you were oppressed, then the oppressors must pay for their sins. And the payment for this sin is that you don't have to accept them, they have to accept you. I say, hold on just a minute. I think this is where we're getting into our problem, right? Because now you're telling someone they have to like something or accept something that might even go against their religion or deeply held personal beliefs, belief systems that they find offensive. And you're saying, no, you have to accept this. You have to like it. And if you don't, then you'll have to suffer the penalty of this. We've seen that even, with municipal councilors here. You're accused of being this or that if you don't accept that over there. But it's really breeding intolerance on all sides, and it's, the government has really got everybody fighting, right? So what's going on now? You have Justin Trudeau. Well, he set the stage for a lot of this stuff a number of years ago, as far back as I think 2017, when he became the first sitting prime minister to march in a gay pride parade. Let me see if I can find that for you. I think it's right here. Here we go. Yeah, this is 7 years ago. Here's footage of Justin Trudeau in his very first gay pride parade. And I put it to you that what he's doing here is where his father said, the state has no place in the bedrooms of the nation. Which is like saying we have no business in people's sex lives. What is really going on here is Justin Trudeau is helping to facilitate pushing sexuality out into the public square and in that way, putting it right out into people's faces. I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, go ahead and do whatever you want to do. Something else again to promote it, to promote a lifestyle, and even to the point of saying you must like it. And that's really what I see going on, and that's really what started here, I think, back 7 years ago. And I don't have an issue with even gay pride parades. I don't know, man. It's the politics behind it. And so here's the prime minister endorsing it, right? Promoting it. Turning sexuality into something political. It's like, so not everybody's cool with it. I get it. And we've just seen more and more and more of it over time. And people have become more concerned about what's going on in the schools and all of that, and I totally get it. But with all of that, with every action, you get an equal and opposite reaction, and now we're getting, serious pushback, right? Because parents are concerned about their rights, and they see a larger political agenda in play. And this is taking the country, honestly, right to the edge. Justin should have paid more attention to what his father said. The state has no business in the bedrooms of the nation. Well, I'll flip it around and I'll say people's sexuality honestly, has no place in the business of the nation, in the politics of the nation. People's sexuality really has no place in the politics of the nation. It's between people. Leave the damn government out of it. Leave the politics out of it. Criminal code stuff, yeah, consent, stuff involving kids. You want charges for things like, yeah, absolutely. To protect people from assault, being assaulted, being abused in some way. Yes, and we have laws for those sorts of things in place. After that, I just wish the government would stay the hell out of it. And not just government, but government, arm's length government bodies as well. And just leave the politics out of it. Get it out of the streets in a politicized way. These parades, government funded. Government money being poured into it. That's marketing. That's promotion. That's promoting a lifestyle. That's where this trouble really starts, because the government is creating this friction by promoting something, by politicizing sexuality. And they know. But it's not just the government. It's a certain segment of society that gets this money. They get greedy. They even set up organizations to get more money. And they push their agenda in order to line their pockets and to grab political power, money and power. And we've got a big problem on our hands now, don't we? Because now we have people fighting in the streets, literally. We've been seeing it over the past year. All these protests in Canada. Because the government's also been funding these drag queen storytime events, which some people find incredibly offensive. Other people are all in on it. Why are they so all in on it? Well, they're getting money. And in some cases, lots of it. And they get to virtue signal politically, and they use the issue as a wedge issue in order to assert and accumulate political power. And so now we have this 1 million person march coming up this week. It's pushback against all the drag queen storytime stuff. So, my goodness. A lot of people very upset about this. It's become the focal issue for the populist side in the populist movements in Canada now. The People's Party of Canada, it's definitely an issue there. For a lot of conservative politicians, it has become an issue that they can gain ground with. And on the other side, promoting this stuff, Trudeau, it's become one of his main issues. He loves to talk about pride. He's aligning himself with that. And it's a calculated political risk that they took a long time ago to say, hey, we're going to go with this. We're going to promote LGBTQS plus rights and lifestyle. And that should help us get elected. They're gauging public opinion. They're polling on this stuff. And on the other side, you've got people now pushing back. And I think it's really unfortunate because we've actually lost a lot of ground. I think the gay community has lost a lot of ground. A lot of progress they made in just being accepted and getting over those years where people were actually, commonly beaten up in our communities, to being, I think, pretty much accepted. It's not a big deal anymore. People don't care. I think that's really where you want to be. But no, they've been pushing. They keep on pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And they push it into the schools, and they promote the lifestyle, and they've taken it to a place where they should not really have been taking it. because now you've pissed off a lot of parents and people from certain religions, and now you have a 1 million person march. And that's being organized not by Christians, but by leaders from Muslim communities. And we're hearing, what, as many as 100 communities possibly across Canada getting ready to participate in this march on Wednesday, the 20th. But it's about more than that, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's about a lot more than that. It's about the lockdowns. It's about freedom. It's about individual rights and freedoms. It's about liberty. It's about the whole enchilada, isn't it? It's about the globalist agenda versus the freedom agenda. Whatever freedom is. I mean, we can talk about that at more length, but basically you have two sides. And this weekend, today, because of this leaked Zoom meeting with labor leaders, I think some hard truth has come out about really who is behind a lot of the problems we're seeing right out in the open, right in the streets, right in our political system. It's right in our faces. It's the progressive, neoliberal, woke left. It's a form of Marxism, cultural Marxism. It's the unions. Unions and government. NDP, liberals, big unions, big money. It's exactly what it is. That's what it's been for a long time. These are the same people who locked us down, folks. They're the people who want to mask up. They're the people who want mandatory things in the arm. Now, to me, that's very authoritarian. You can call it what you want. You can call it communism. You can call it fascism. You can call it this. You can call it that. You can call it neoliberalism. You can call it, put any brand you want on it, but it's totalitarian. It's authoritarian. These are the people. When people's rights were being violated during the height of the pandemic, and even now, the unions didn't do anything to protect anybody. They didn't do squat. They were all in on it, man. And then I remember many months later listening to an interview with a union leader on a radio call-in show. And he said, oh, yeah, well, we are defending the rights of workers and we're defending personal choice. This is after everybody had been forced to get the thing. Or people ended up losing their jobs. The unions weren't there for people. Because they're collectivists. Always have been. Socialists, yeah, but more than that, collectivists. What they've done, what they did, was terrible. They didn't stand up for workers. They stood up for the government and for the big companies, the big corporations. I've seen time and again in this country, too, where the unions quite often have taken positions where they've aligned themselves with the interests of the big corporations themselves, the very corporations that they're supposed to push back against in order to represent their workers in order to get better wages and working conditions. That's where their focus should be. During the pandemic, strangely, they weren't there to support workers who had requested religious exemptions or health exemptions to getting the thing in the arm. They did nothing. Pretty much did nothing. Time and again, they failed people. I mean, people are worried about Canada because they say that it's the governmental system And, that's the problem. They say it's a systemic issue, that it's the Charter of Rights and Freedoms isn't worth the paper it's written on. Man, it was more than that. It wasn't that. It wasn't just that. It was corporations. It was money, corruption. Why did these unions not stand up for people? Why are they not standing up for people now? Why are they doing what they're doing now? They've been sort of cloaked in the background, I think, on this LGBTQS plus stuff, in a way. Because as I've been watching for months, this circus out on the streets between the Save Canada guys and, the Billboard Chris guy and freedom groups. And then on the other side, you have all these, other protesters who are out there at these drag queen storytime events, like supporting the drag queen storytime stuff. And then these two sides get out there and clash in the streets, and the cops are kind of caught in the middle. And to me, it just looks like a circus sideshow. A lot of it. It just looks ridiculous, and people screaming at each other. And I don't know what the hell they're achieving at all anyway. It's driving me loopy. And now it's reaching a new fever pitch because neither side is giving an inch. They're all just digging in more, and there's more and more polarization politically because of it, and everybody's just becoming more extreme in their views. So now you got this 1 million person march coming up. And it's not just about saving the children. It's about the whole thing, really. It's about everything. But this is an unexpected turn of events, because now you have the Muslims aligning themselves with, not all the Muslims, but certain sections or certain factions within the Muslim communities of Canada aligning themselves with Christians on this one particular issue, and that's galvanizing support. And now you've got this, what is supposed to be this huge, massive, Canada-wide march on Wednesday. And I'll tell you this, I think the other side's scared. So they've mobilized a counter-protest. They're organizing a counter-protest Canada-wide. And they're hoping to get a massive crowd out to push back and crush this thing. And they had a super secret meeting, a Zoom meeting. It's out there in the public now because somebody in that meeting clearly didn't like what was being said, and I totally understand why. Because the language, the tone, to me, very disturbing because it's very confrontational. This is not, let's have a protest. This is like, to me, it's like, let's get out there and crush the fascists. This is the collectivists, the Marxists, the neoliberal woke crowd, the communists on one side. And over here you have the freedom group that's being portrayed, cast as the fascists, the convoy people. And it's very unfortunate because they are, I think they're having some success in smearing the freedom movement with this fascist brush. Why are they able to do that? Because I'll tell you why. Because months ago, I sat here and I tried to tell people this is dangerous. Some of the things that you're embracing, some of the ideas that you're entertaining, some of the people that you're allowing to come into your circle, where I'm saying there's a problem over here. You should maybe look at cleaning that up. Nobody wanted to do anything about it. Nobody has done anything about it. And so you've got a little bit of a cancer within the group. That's not to say that everybody is, because you're not. But you know what I'm talking about. And so that's a problem now because they're using that against you. Yeah, they are. And I don't have a solution now. You can deny it, but there's an undercurrent of that. Maybe even more. And that's the truth. And I think a lot of the people involved you still don't see it. But that's how the other side views you. That's how you're being portrayed through the media to the general public. That's how I think a lot of people now view the movement, because nobody wanted to do anything about it. And nobody did. And while I know that the vast majority are just average Canadians, and it's not true, when they apply that fascist term to you, you don't need very much to make a little bit of that stick. And that's really unfortunate, because this takes away from everything that was achieved back in Ottawa during the original Freedom Convoy. Anyway, I don't mean to criticize, but it's just truth. And until somebody or the group in general realizes that there's a problem, it's just going to become worse. And this is what they've done in this, they seriously, in this Zoom meeting, these labor leaders, they view the freedom movement and this 1 million person march as a fascist movement that needs to be stamped out, stopped at any cost. A huge threat. That's how they see it. And I believe that that's the way they believe it, that they see it. I don't think it's like they're just making it up. This is what they really believe. This is what they see. The strange thing going on here, though, the language they use, the things that they say they want, they're using the same words as people on the freedom side. They say that they want to save the children too. You say you want to save the children. Both sides are trying to save the children. It's kind of weird. It's actually really very weird. Let me show you some of this. Okay, so I think this is a clip with, and again, man, this is out in the public already. So I wrestled with, this was a secret meeting, but somebody who was in that meeting decided to make it public. It's out there in the public domain now. And so this is, I believe, the Ontario Federation of Labour Human Rights Director. And well, let me just let this roll. Little clip to show you where their mindset is. Okay? Here we go.
Seeing how much hatred there is, but it's not as organized as they might think. We can see that it's a very much a cut and paste email type of organization. Are you able to join a counter protest that's already happening, or are you able to, and for some of us, this is what's going to have to happen, to organize, to anchor an event, to get people out there, to mobilize.
They're
to
organizing
the
this
so that we
bunch
have
of
as many
counter
people there as
protests
possible.
all over the country.
Those of you who, unfortunately, have gone to the website have seen how much hatred there is, but it's not as organized as they might think. We can see that it's a very much a cut and paste email type of organization. We need to be able to respond to that in a much better way. So thank you. That's the first slide. We're saying enough is enough to hate. So second slide, please.
The freedom side people are saying enough is enough too.
As you've heard, this is a mass nationwide coordinated protests. We see who they're targeting and what they're doing, which is the insidious way is that they're saying that they are protecting children. And we know that far from protecting children, this is actually an attack on children and on communities. Next slide, please.
Isn't that interesting that she says that? We're here to protect the children. And the other side says, we're here to protect the children. Interesting how the mindset is sort of the same and yet diametrically opposed.
So as we were saying, as allies, we need to come together and say enough is enough. We are not going to tolerate the hate, the intolerance, or the indoctrination in any form in any camp.
Not going to tolerate any indoctrination. And yet, if you listen to the freedom people, they use exactly the same word. We don't want our children indoctrinated. Isn't that interesting?
We're going to organize, and we're going to have rapid response teams ready to combat this hate. And we all need to be co-conspirators in the community.
Co-conspirators in the community. So they're going to conspire against this. They're concocting their own little conspiracy. And I would say that that's actually not that far from the truth, because you know what? They didn't really want people to know that this is a labor thing, I don't think, so much. Or labor pushed this, okay? And I don't think they wanted people, I don't think people even realized that what you've been seeing in the streets, the street battles that have been taking place, that this has been really the catalyst for this has been the labor movement, because the labor movement isn't just the labor movement. It's a political movement. These unions are out of their lane, okay? And they have been for a long time. They have become political activists. They did a long time ago. They're pushing this Marxist, socialist culture, cultural Marxism, not just socialism. Like they're pushing this whole cultural Marxism agenda, and the unions have been all in on it. Anyway, let's little
to stand up for this group, especially this time on the 20th, but all oppressed groups. Next, please. We need to make sure that in these attempts that we're confronting the hate groups, we're organizing and mobilizing, that we're responding quickly. What is, as someone said, we're used to the type of hate and rhetoric that we see coming from the United States. What is unique about this is that it's now being under the guise of being led by parents. It's being led by the guise of being led by religious faith and some sort of ethnic communities. And we need to be very sure that we make sure that our response is based on the hate and not on the people. And it's a very easy way to divide many diverse communities by pitting us against each other. But within labor, within progressive movements, we know about intersectionality, and we know that hate can come in many forms, but it's a lot of ignorance. And so we need to make sure that our message is targeted towards the message as opposed to the people who are saying it, because in that way, we're not going to fall prey to their usual ways of bigotry. Next slide, please. So what we're asking you to do is to make sure that you're able to plan this protest. It's very easy steps. We're sharing the information with our network. We're confirming attendance. One thing that we do really well in labor is that we mobilize really well, but we don't organize. So we need to make sure that we know who is coming, who will be there, who is leading it. Before the event, make signs and posters, whether you do it together, come together and do it, or have people do it with slogans that, again, are targeted at the message of anti-hate and not at the groups of people who are promoting it, that we communicate these details with our groups. Very importantly is that we arrive 30 minutes before, at least, their planned protest, so that we are occupying the space, that it becomes our message, and that we are then establishing ourselves, so that we are not going into their protest, that we are already there and we have established ourselves. Make sure that you have a megaphone, mic, music, flags, posters, banners, chant sheets. We know how to do that, and that use that opportunity to speak with people, to spread the real message. Have a petition ready there, have clipboards, have pens, so that you can speak with people, get their information, so that your rapid response team is going to be a team that you can call on any time, and it's going to be growing. Next slide, please.
So these guys, I mean, let's face it, it's organized labor. They know how to run a protest. When I was working in mainstream media, I used to cover a lot of labor protests, man. Like, I used to call them professional protesters. They're very good at it. And they do have numbers. I don't know how many people will actually come out for the 1 million person march, but you know, the problem here is the mindset too. Because these labor leaders, and I'm sorry guys, you know, like, I respect labor, and I respect the sacrifices that have been made in the past through the labor movement in order to achieve better working conditions and wages for workers in a variety of industries. And I appreciate and respect that some people have given even their lives to create better working conditions for the average person. I have a lot of respect for that. But this collectivist mindset, this cultural Marxism, like so many other things, it's been taken too far. That's really why you're getting the pushback that you're getting. Because now, you're engaging in a form of censorship. Because you're not tolerant. What you're doing here is you're trying to take over somebody else's protest to cancel them. You're engaging in a form of cancel culture. Instead of being tolerant and saying, hey, you know what? Like, we have a right to protest. They have a right to protest. So they've got a protest planned. So why don't you just let them protest? And if you want to have a counter protest, go stand on the opposite street corner, I guess, and you're free to do that over there. Let them do their thing. You do your thing. But no, you can't do that. No, you got to get right up in their face. More than that, you got to go over and take over their space. That's confrontational. You know that they've got it planned. You know they're going to be showing up. And you didn't think that they would even know that you had this meeting. But your plan is to go over there and take over the space that they were going to use for their protest before they get there so that they can't have their protest. And if they try to have their protest, you're going to hold the line. And you know what that's going to end up happening? You know what's going to happen then? You're going to have some sort of confrontation. And you're hoping that you're going to have so many people that the million-person march people will dissipate and go away because they'll be afraid of you, so intimidated, and they won't have a place to conduct their rally, that you're just going to cancel them out. Because you don't want anybody else to have a voice, because you don't respect it. You want to shut them up. I know how you work. I've seen it so many times. Your noisemakers and your megaphones and your screaming and That's not right either. And even if they're, it doesn't matter what their political views are. Everybody, in my view, should have the right to protest and speak their mind. Even if I don't agree with it, you go ahead and say what you want to say. And if you want to have a protest on the street, you go ahead and have your protest. I don't have to stop you. The better thing to do is to maybe have a discussion, explore the issues. And if somebody has bad ideas, you combat that bad idea with a good idea. And maybe you find some common ground in the process. But this is confrontational. You don't want them to have a voice. Why? Because you're afraid. I understand. But this isn't the answer. This is just as bad, or worse, than anything you might imagine these other people stand for. And I know what you think they stand for. This is no good. I see problems on all sides because there's a lack of tolerance. And it's that lack of tolerance that is generating this extremism. The harder you push, Justin Trudeau is the one who has created a lot of this extremism on both sides. And the people participating in this pushback on both sides, you're creating more extremism because you're not talking. And if no one's talking, then things become more polarized. And as things become more polarized, people get pushed out further and further and further to the extremes. I've been around for quite a long time covering politics, and I can tell you that I've seen many, many politicians, especially conservative politicians, called fascists, Nazis, whether it was Ontario Premier Mike Harris or Stephen Harper, the former Prime Minister of Canada. They called him a fascist. I remember CBC comedian calling him Herr Harper in a sketch. And we see many people calling Justin Trudeau a Nazi. Sometimes, terms like fascist apply, but it's been thrown around and diluted too much over the years. People use it too haphazardly. When I've used it, I mean it in a very specific kind of way. When I use it for Canada, I'm referring to it to the Canadian government. When I say fascist, I'm referring to the economic system as being fascistic, a kind of corporatocracy. But so far, I'm not seeing Jews rounded up and taken off to concentration camps. Now, during the pandemic, we saw measures taken that told me that people basically kind of failed the test, right? When tested, would our government defend our rights and freedoms? Would people stand up and take a stand to defend personal freedoms, individual rights and freedoms? And people in Canada failed miserably. So in that way, that's very authoritarian too. Fascistic, communistic, whatever you want to call it, it's authoritarianism, totalitarianism. That's really what we're experiencing here. And cancel culture and censorship, and that's what's going on the streets. And we're seeing more and more extremism because there's not much, if any, middle ground left anymore. Everybody's being forced to pick a side. And when you start going down that road, then the people out on the fringes, they gain momentum too, because they start picking up more and more people on both sides. You're picking up more people at the extreme edges of the political spectrum. That's a dangerous thing too. And now that's seeping back inward, and you're seeing it on both sides, this extremism. I'll tell you right now, the government is very extreme. I think our government is run by extremists. I think that Stephen Guilbeault, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, is kind of an extremist, an environmental extremist. This is the guy who scaled the CN Tower to make a statement about climate change, because he's always been a climate activist, and now he's running that whole ministry. And so we're getting very extreme policies. Chrystia Freeland has direct ties to Ukraine. Her family's from Ukraine. So we get sort of very biased policies toward Ukraine, favoring Ukraine, and the Canadian government dumping a lot of money into the Ukraine conflict. But back to the streets we go, and we've had, over the past year, this massive conflict, this fight. Nobody wants to talk. It's not solving a damn thing. Not a damn thing. Here's this is what I'm talking about. On these union folks, who I'm sure mean well, but listen to the way they view what they say, and this shows you exactly how they view the freedom movement. With very specific references going back to the original convoy during this meeting, this is how they view this million-person march, the freedom movement in general. To them, you're fascists, Nazis, bigots. That's how they view the freedom movement. Hang on a second here. I have to get the right clip for you. It's here it is here. Okay. To them, you are the extremists, but I would suggest to you that it's all the way around. The extremism is on all sides right now. And we have to fix this, folks. We have to find a way back.
Obviously,
here we go.
They're all being set for 9. We are seeing a set of protests that are all being done simultaneously. They're all being set for 9 a.m. in each of their time zones.
So this is the vice president, I believe, of QP 4600.
In every single province of this country, in multiple states of these provinces. And it is really scary. It is extremely similar as to what has been happening in the U.S. And we are very, very worried about what could be coming next. We are wanting to show a very strong response countering these protests, to show that, they even think that there's a possibility of bringing what's happening other places here. We're going to be there to counter it every single step of the way. We want to show a very heavy people on this call that have a lot of experience in dealing with this type of thing, that can help us keep each other safe and be strong in the response that we're doing as well to these hate mongers, really.
Now being under the guise of being led by parents, it's being led by the guise of being led by religious faith and some sort of ethnic communities, and we need to be supported, and we're all getting together and being disrupting and causing some good trouble.
Avenue in Ottawa with Save Canada, Josh Alexander and Billboard Chris came. And I have a lot of great information to share and spread about what they did, how they organized, and how we countered. Our numbers were in fact a lot bigger than just a couple hundred. I think we had probably closer to 300 or 400, whereas fascists were indeed violent. And in terms of Ottawa, we have just planned a counter protest starting at 9 a.m. on Supreme Court of Canada lawn. We chose this location because it's just adjacent to where they were building, and we are not in the business of defending the state from fascists. We are in the business of protecting communities and each other to ensure that the hate does not go unopposed in the streets. I mentioned the fact that this is absolutely crucial that we oppose this in the streets. And this is just signs that I've seen that we're rising, that this is far more than just like a far-right transphobic protest. They are fundamentally racist. They're fundamentally anti-union. They are fundamentally queer and transphobic. And it's just a matter of time before they come to us. And the only way, the best way that the fascists have been stopped in the last 100 years has been when we unite in massive numbers in the streets. So this requires us to pivot and start to think about how we can use our inherent strength in a way that we're not used to using, where we know that we're better than them. We also don't have to worry too much about putting our members and our comrades in unsafe situations, because when we get numbers, we're going to keep each other safe.
I know I've got 3 kids myself who are currently in the K-12 system who identify as trans, and I to steal a couple of their tactics in that when they are gathering for their tailgate party in the mall parking lot, we've got a couple of seasoned activists who've already said that they're willing to go over and take some pictures of license plates and these are people who are willing to do this. They're people who are seasoned and make sure that they know that they're being watched, that they're not doing this in secret, that people are noticing what they're up to. The last thing I wanted to ask. Is it possible that the OFL or CLC could have a list of some legal support numbers from across Ontario? Even it doesn't have to be from Hamilton, but if somebody for some reason gets picked up, it would be good that if they could have a 1-800 number that they could write on their arm or something like that, so that they know they've always got a lawyer that they can call. So that would be useful. I'm not saying it will happen. We're going to try and stop it from happening. But we have some seasoned activists who have been used to that in the past, and they wanted to make sure that we had that option if we had to.
But this is But Carolyn, back to you. If we stand up to the bully will decide what to do. They will fight, fright, or flight, fight, or fright. And so let's give them some fright on September 20th, so that on September 21st till whatever, that they're working on the flight tactic. I think
we are seeing a set of protests that are all being done simultaneously. They're all being set for 9 a.m. in each of their time zones in every single province of this country, in multiple cities of these provinces. And it is really scary. It is extremely similar as to what has been happening in the U.S. And we are very, very worried about what could be coming next. We are wanting to show a very strong response countering these protests, to show that, they even think that there's a possibility of bringing what's happening other places here. We're going to be there to counter it every single step of the way. We want to show a very heavy people on this call that have a lot of experience in dealing with this type of thing, that can help us keep each other safe and be strong in the response that we're doing as well to these hate mongers, really.
Now being under the guise of being led by parents, it's being led by the guise of being led by religious faith and some sort of ethnic communities. And we need to be supported, and we're all getting together and being disrupting and causing some good trouble.
Avenue in Ottawa when Save Canada, Josh Alexander, and Billboard Chris came. And I have a lot of great information to share and spread about what they did, how they organized, and how we countered. Our numbers were in fact a lot bigger than just a couple hundred. I think we had probably closer to 300 or 400, whereas fascists were indeed violent. And in terms of Ottawa, we have just planned a counter protest starting at 9 a.m. on Supreme Court of Canada lawn. We chose this location because it's just adjacent to where they were building, and we are not in the business of defending the state from fascists. We are in the business of protecting communities and each other to ensure that the hate does not go unopposed in the streets. I mentioned the fact that this is absolutely crucial that we oppose this in the streets. And this is just signs that I've seen that we're rising, that this is far more than just like a far-right transphobic protest. They are fundamentally racist. They're fundamentally anti-union. They are fundamentally queer and transphobic. And it's just a matter of time before they come to us. And the only way, the best way that the fascists have been stopped in the last 100 years has been when we unite in massive numbers in the streets. So this requires us to pivot and start to think about how we can use our inherent strength in a way that we're not used to using, where we know that we're better than them.
So again, I just let that last clip roll again because that was, that's really at the heart of what they're thinking. And when I say, I think they mean well, it's because, I'm sure that in their minds, what they're about to do, they think they're doing the right thing. Where do you think it's going to go? Folks, I don't know. We have to find a way to live together. After World War II, after any war, what do you do with the soldiers from the other side, the people from the other side, even the officers, the government, the people who ran the government that you were opposed to, that you were at war with, the people who survive? And you're victorious and the other side loses. What do you do with those people? What should we have done with the Nazis who survived after World War II? Well, we put some of them on trial at the Nuremberg trials, right? And some of them came here. Scientists in particular, intelligence people, military officers, a lot of them fled to Canada. Should we have let that happen? If not, what do you do with them? Do you leave them in Germany? Because, I think some people would say execute them. Really? It's a lot of dead people. If you think that you are facing some sort of evil and your enemy in your mind is being dehumanized, you're ready to go to pretty extreme lengths, aren't you? To crush your opponent. You remember I said that a lot of the same language is being used on both sides? It's eerily similar. Both sides think that they're out there to save the children. I have to wonder how much of this is psychological manipulation. The first casualty of war is always truth. We know that. But there's more going on here. I'm very, very worried. They've got people fighting in the streets, man. Not telling anybody what to do. I just don't like the politics on any side right now. I don't like it. This is, to me, history repeating itself. And it's ironic, isn't it, that both sides see the other side as fascistic? Or communist versus fascist. It's the way that people have it played out in their minds. Not so sure that it's quite that simple. These are just labels. Not so long ago, this kind of stuff wasn't going on in the streets, not like this. Not very long ago. Money, government manipulation. Drag Queen Storytime is funded by the government. And this is the other thing about these unions, okay? They're out of their lane. This is my view. In all the years I worked as a mainstream journalist, I was never denied an interview or access to any union event because I always had respect for the unions and the union leaders that I dealt with, and I always got along very well with them. And my political views, I always kind of kept to myself, and I was always fair. I always did my very best to be balanced in my coverage of everything, and as a result, I had the respect of the newsmakers of the day that I dealt with, and I was able to move within all political circles and talk to everybody because I always treated everyone fairly. And everybody knew that. And it was actually a situation where they all kind of thought that I was on their side because I was so neutral about everything in the way that I covered the news. But that was old school journalism. But I did I did observe something back in those days. I saw unions. I saw the socialists. I saw the NDP. I saw the collectivists on the left often freeze out certain journalists. They wouldn't talk to them. They would engage in cancel culture that way. They would engage in censorship. It made me very, very uncomfortable. I never suffered that kind of treatment because they never saw me as any kind of a threat. But if they didn't like what you printed, they wouldn't talk to you anymore. Never did I ever experience that on the conservative side. Never. Never saw that. I really didn't. Unfortunately, today I'm seeing that in the conservative side sometimes. Less so. It was going on in the Conservative Party, but with Poilievre, who has come back, I've noticed that the shift has come back to letting journalists in again. I have noticed. But you're seeing that same sort of mindset spread throughout the political parties in Canada, and I think even in the US. You have to be on a team or they don't talk to you. But I was always fair, and I'll be fair here. I'll inject my opinion today, as I haven't in the past, but I'm always fair to anybody that comes on to do an interview. But what I'm also observing here is, these union leaders, this Zoom meeting, sorry guys, but you're out of your lane. You've got no business being involved in this, honestly. Your labor leaders, in my opinion, you need to focus on the workplace. You need to focus on your workers. You should be focusing on getting better contracts, better working conditions, better wages for the workers you represent. And to some degree, that includes some social issues within your workplace. And if you want to get involved in some charity work in the community, so be it. And if there's something that directly relates to the workplace, politically, I guess, within your community, then fine. But for far too long, labor organizations have been far too connected politically. And you've become a group of political activism, an arm's length extension of the government. And let's face it, you're getting some government funding, you're using union dues for your political activism. And I wouldn't say that what you're doing here necessarily represents what some of your membership would want. And I don't think that it's your place to be out in the streets effectively acting like Antifa, which is a pretty accurate description of what you guys are about to engage in here, because you said in the meeting that you wanted to build up an anti-fascist movement. That's what Antifa is. That's what you've become. You're Antifa. And you're financing it with your membership, I guess. I mean, how else are you financing it? You've got membership dues, you've got government money. And you said in that one clip that it's not your place to do the work or protect the state, it's to protect the communities. But you are doing the bidding of Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government and Jagmeet Singh. That's exactly what you're doing. And you are political because in the same meeting, you sat there and criticized Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives and smeared them as fascists too. And to be sure, there are issues on, within other, as I said, everybody's being pushed out to the edges here. But that's because the more the government squeezes, the more you guys push back in the streets, the more friction, the more you try to cancel the other side, the more you push people out to the edges. This is no good. And when you guys show up, you don't talk. You don't solve anything in the streets. You think this is the only way we defeat fascism is by getting out there en masse and crushing the opponent. Where do you think those people go? They don't just go away forever. They go home. They're still there. You haven't changed their minds by screaming at them and preventing them from saying their piece and exercising the right to free speech and free expression. You haven't fixed anything. You've just pushed it down the road. And because those people feel like they're disenfranchised, they get pushed out further to the edges, and we just get more and more extremism. In that way, the government has actually created the very villain that They've created their political opponent. A year ago, even a year ago, I would never hear some of the things coming out of people's mouths that I'm hearing coming out today. And it's because everybody's being pushed to more extremist perspectives, more extremist points of view. They feel like the other side isn't going to budge. You gotta fight back. But I'll tell you this, we better learn to live together again somehow. We need to find a way back to tolerance. Because if we can't learn to live with one another, then I guess some people are going to end up killing each other. And that's no damn good. Just because you disagree with someone, and even at the end of a war, when a war comes to an end, what do? You're victorious, and then you line up all the people on the other side against a wall or something, and you shoot them? No, you have to find a way to live with them. No matter how much you're opposed to their point of view, at some point, we're going to have to learn to live together. Wouldn't it be better to do it now before things get that bad? Go back and look at your damn history. Learn a little bit from it. Really. And think about where this is going and you know, what are we going to end up with? Everybody wants to tear the government down. What's coming up on the other side? That concerns me because I'm not getting answers still. So I don't know, man. I'm not pleased. I'm very worried about where all this is going. This week, it's all coming to a head this week, isn't it? Secret Zoom meetings with labor leaders, people with the convoy thing. Yeah, the convoy's going on. We're not telling you what day. It's all actually rolling. It's not going to be part of the million-person march thing. It's going on, though. It's all still happening, but we don't know exactly when, don't know exactly where. It's all, shadowy and cloaked in secrecy. I don't know. Bothers me, though. This whole thing bothers me. I don't know. To all our American viewers out there, you maybe don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Canada's on the edge. I'll tell you, it's actually, when I talk about the extreme edges of things, from what I'm seeing, yeah, you're probably going to get a lot of people out in the streets. We're talking about a lot of communities. From the sounds of it, minimum 22, maybe as many as 100 communities participating in this million-person march, which is going to kick off maybe multiple days of protests or whatever it is that we're going to get. In addition to that, you have this First Nations protest going on the grounds of Parliament at the same time, as I understand it. There's been an announcement about that as well. So you have that. Somehow that's tying in to all of this other stuff. Plus you have the Save the Children convoy that people have been talking about. So that's going to happen too. What that looks like, I'm not exactly sure, but that's supposed to be a convoy of people rolling across the country. I'm not sure that's getting as much traction as the million-person march is, but this march thing certainly has some legs. And now you're getting pushback from labor? So labor's going to oppose it? This is really volatile. And it sounds like it is big. I can't predict. Maybe everything that everybody's saying, maybe some people are full of hot air. Maybe you'll get 50 people show up. I don't know. But it sounds like a whole lot of cities, and I'm seeing a lot of posters, and I'm seeing a lot of stuff online, and people messaging, and, here's an event here, and here's an event there. And it seems like it's pretty darn big. And these guys on the labor side, they have intelligence that tells them it's going to be big, so they're ramping up on their side. So what's that going to lead to? Friction. We've seen it already. We've been watching that on a smaller scale, I think, throughout the past year, and this is all coming to a head Wednesday on the 20th. And it doesn't sound like anybody's ready to back down or give any ground. And one of the key organizers, Dana Metcalf, we have a video with Dana coming up right after this. And Dana will explain exactly what the position of the organizers of this million-person march is in the face of this initiative, this pushback that they're getting now, this counter-protest plan from organized labor in Canada.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, here's Dana Metcalf. She has been a key person within the freedom movement for quite some time, and now I know that she's been involved in organizing some of the core events for the million-person march coming up on Wednesday. This is her response to this super secret Zoom meeting with some of Canada's labor leaders and their plan to counter-protest on Wednesday and in the days afterward as well. Here's Dana.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you on here. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you on here. It is Raven, aka Dana Metcalf, from St. John's, Newfoundland, who is one of your spokespersons for the 1 million person march. If there's somebody out there that could say hello, let me know that you guys are tuning in. This is probably one of the most important broadcasts that we have put out to date. There's a lot of questions about why we are not organizing a march in Ottawa. I'm here to tell you that there is a march happening in Ottawa. There is a march happening in Toronto. We are just not the originating organizers. That is Camille El Sheikh, who is the original founder of the 1 Million March for People. So I'm going to get right into what we have to discuss today, because this is a call out to all Canadians. So if you wouldn't mind doing me a favor, if you could hit share on your Facebook page, I'm going to give you a few minutes to cross post this to anywhere that you feel it's necessary. And yeah, we're going to get right into it. So our country is in a place where human rights are being violated, bodily autonomy is being violated, and rights in general are being violated. And this is what the 1 Million March for Parents and Families is about. It's about standing up for our children. It's about standing up for our right to be able to allow them to have an innocent self-exploration without criminal codes being breaking 171, 172, child exploitation, exposing them to pornographic material. We have stated, the 1 Million March for Children has stated since day one that we are not homophobic, transphobic. We don't stand against the LGBTQ. Our messaging has been on point. We have a solid relationship with Gays Against Groomers. We have a solid relationship with Gays Against Grooming. We've done some podcasts with members of both. And this isn't an LGBTQ issue. This is a government program called SOGI 123 that's rolling out across our country that is exposing our children to supersexual content. Now, over the last couple of days, after we kind of said that we weren't going into Toronto and Ottawa because we had concerns about safety for children. We're not saying don't go to Ottawa. We're saying maybe just leave your children home. A lot of things have come to light. When we did a protest here in Newfoundland a short while ago, the government utilized the unions, the Parent Teachers Association, the Parent Teachers Association, the Human Rights Commission, and another union to stand up against parents and intimidate them from actually participating in the gathering that was around Soji 123. So that was the first marker to notice that the government is utilizing all different bodies of within reach to suppress parents and intimidate them from coming. Our Premier, Andrew Furey, in St. John's, Newfoundland, stood up against parents that were standing up for their rights. Now, I'm going to make this clear because this is important that all Canadians need to know, whether you're, pro 1 million March for Children or not pro 1 million March for Children. We can all agree that we as men and women and children and families in this country have a right to have an opinion and to have an independent thought and to be protective over those things and to be protective over our children. What's happened in the last say 24 hours has been pretty amazing. I will drop a video to support what I'm saying in the next few minutes in the comment box for you to watch. Odessa Orwitz put out a video today that showed that the unions across this country, it's a leaked video, so it's a video that shows that all the unions across this country, well, not all of them, but a large part of them, one of them in particular, Ontario Federation of Labour and CUPE, as well as CUPE, the Anti-Hate Network, we're familiar with those guys. They were all in on this one giant video talking about how they were going to plan their counter protest. Now, when you watch this video, you're going to be very disturbed and you're going to be very alarmed because it calls everyday mom and dad and Canadians bigots, racists, and Nazis. These people actually called parents that are trying to stand up for their children bigots, racists, and Nazis. So when I watched this video, I watched a well-orchestrated plan of attack being executed across this country as to how they were going to utilize their unions, utilize their members, give them time off with pay to stand up against parents. And in the video, it straight up says that they're doing this to demoralize the parents. They're trying to demoralize Canadians from standing up for their rights. Whether or not you believe in what we're doing, you should realize that at this point all of our rights are being violated in some way or another. I mean, whether or not we can't fly without a mask on, or whether we have to get a vaccine, or whether we're not happy about what's happening with our children, it is a break in our human rights. We are seeing a downfall and a breakdown of our democracy and a breakdown of our laws. A lot of the time, many of these organizations have been told to stand down. I watched a video earlier today where the police openly seen somebody get assaulted and didn't do anything about it because they said, well, if you guys are talking to each other, or if somebody gets up in somebody's face, we're not really going to act. And all of this has got to do with who is on the government payroll. Who is on the government payroll? Well, the unions get kickbacks and the government gets kickbacks and the PTA's on kickbacks. I live in a province where 70% of our province is employed by a government body in some fashion. So what happens when the government weaponizes their ability to take advantage and pit the government bodies that are involved against parental rights? Right? What happens there? it shows that, oh, we've got this big counter protest. They're talking about jointly photocopying things, and they've got, spreadsheets, and it is literally a planned movement that's happening with our labor boards, with our CUPE, with the, let me just pull it up for you here. With CUPE is 4,600, and then we have, this is a huge one actually. Then we have OFL Labor in Toronto, the official account, has 54 unions underneath it. So our government right now is our paid opposition. So not only do we have to worry about, standing up for our rights, but it's a clear indication now that our government is creating a false illusion that, that the counter protesters are LGBTQ, but they're not. They're not. They're people that are getting paid for by the federal government or getting kickbacks from the federal government to stand up against every parent in this country. So this is how we are going to proceed. My knowledge is union members are not necessarily violent, so I'm not worried about that. But we are standing with our families, with our children, and with everyday Canadians that authentically have a concern for what is happening in our schools. Children are confused. Parents are losing their rights. Girls are having to go into bathrooms. There's situations in the United States where a young girl was actually raped in a bathroom. These things are happening. So I'm going to put a call out right now for every single able body that is in this country that supports having rights. It's not even about the children at this point. It is about the children, but it's about the fact that the government is trying to strip us away from our rights to the point where they're organizing the labor boards to stand up against us, to demoralize us. I will give you this video and you can watch it in its entirety. It's actually upsetting to watch that the government that we believed was a democracy and stood for the rule of law is now weaponizing itself and weaponizing different aspects of government, teachers, school boards, and all of these things to demoralize us. So I'm calling for every off-duty police officer. I'm calling for every fireman. I'm calling for every first responder. I'm calling for every person that's tribal in this country. I'm calling for every nationality in this entire country to come and form a circle in each individual province, in each individual location, to make sure that none of these government paid opposition touches any of our children. This is your calling. I would like to see every podcaster out there or anybody that has a live feed or does anything that is on social media and or otherwise, that you make sure that this message is shared, because we are not facing the LGBTQ. We are not even standing against the LGBTQ. What we're standing against is the federal government and the provincial governments and the unions across this nation trying to demoralize our ability to stand up for our rights. So this is what we're up against. I don't want anybody to be afraid. I don't want anybody to be scared. I truly feel at this point in time I'm more scared for the children than ever, because what is going on with our government and why are they doing this? Why are they doing this to families? Why are they forcing their ideologies and their agendas on our people in our country? This isn't about just the children. This is about every man, woman, and child in this country and what the future is going to look like for them. We will not back down. We will stand peacefully. We will stand behind the Bill of Rights and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms with our families. And if anybody harms one child in this country as a result of these protests, these counter protests, because we're not protesting, we're marching. With these counter protests, it will be on the government. It will be on the government. This will be the government's creation. Anything that goes wrong to stand against peaceful Canadians doing what they're allowed to do in this country is voice their opinion if anything goes wrong, officially, I'm here to tell you that it will blow back on the federal government and the provincial government and these unions. So if you are a trucker, a motorcycle club, if you are anybody and you love your children and you love children in general and you love families, I'm not going to tell the families to stay home out of, Newfoundland or anywhere else out of fear. That's what they want. They want to show up and intimidate us. They straight up said in this video that they're there to demoralize us. They're trying to break the will of Canadians, and most people don't see it. I'm here to tell you it's happening. And if you are available on Wednesday, the 20th, between 9 and probably like 2 p.m., your body is required to come and help us protect our families and children. Not that things necessarily will go wrong, and not that I'm saying that I expect anything to happen. I am saying when the government puts thousands and thousands of people on the streets that are being paid to be there, they're no better than Antifa. The Anti-Hate Network is in there, so you can clearly see when you watch the video that all these articles and stuff that are being written about people like me, people like you, are also funded by the government. Funded in some type of way. They used to be funded by the Heritage Fund from the federal government, but people figured it out, so they took it off their website. So if we have any problems in this country on the 20th of September, we know who to blame. We know who's accountable. If you are somebody, anybody out there that can make your way to one of our marches that have felt like their rights have been violated, we need you to stand up, because this is so wrong. This is so wrong. Our tax dollars are being used to fight against the parents of loving children. Loving parents of some transgender children that have had surgery, that are having complications, that are, trying to detransition. This country will give you $75,000 for your child to go under a knife, but they will offer them nothing if they are injured or harmed. So when we say we stand for the LGBTQ inclusive, we are. We're not here just fighting for, heterosexual children. We're here to protect the tomboys. We're here to protect the children from, removing their option to have children before they even understand what that looks like. We're here to stand up for our parental rights, because they're telling children that they don't have to tell their parents anything. Last week, 3 days into school here in Newfoundland, there was a teacher arrested, who was a math teacher, that was charged with sexual assault of a child in school. That same teacher was probably saying, you don't have to tell your parents anything. We have a problem in Canada, and now everybody has to pick a side. Because once you watch this video that I'm going to drop in this link here as soon as I'm done, you'll fully understand that our government has officially declared war on the rights of Canadians. So for you police officers out there that think you're standing on the right side of history, I want to remind you that you took an oath to serve and protect. To every military man that's out there, you've spent time, watched your fellow colleagues bleed on foreign soil for the protection of everyday Canadians. And now you need to stand up for parents, and you need to stand up for rights, because I know you have children too. For everybody out there that is a biker, I spend all my time with bikers. It's time for you guys to show up too. And I'm not saying that we're coming in an offensive stance, but we need to be able to protect our group while we're out there. We need to be able to protect our children, and we need to show them numbers, because they're hoping that we're going to be outnumbered. They said, we don't have to do anything. We're just going to outnumber them. So all of these protests and stuff that you see the counter protesters for, they're all going in a little Zoom meeting across this country with all their unions that are on the payroll, and they're putting them on the streets and passing them photocopies. It's all fraud. It's all theater. They're abusing taxpayers' money to fight against themselves. And we've been too compliant. I set out on this journey with, hopeful that Canada would allow us to be Canadians. Canada is trying to remove what it is to be Canadian, to put us into this utopian, non-freedom 15-minute city, you know, and I don't like to talk about that stuff on here, but this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a government that will do anything to control you. They will do anything to remove your rights. They will do anything to help you, make you lose your home. They want to strip you of your parenting, your ability to even call your daughter or son by their given name. They're doing very nefarious things. And I know that you guys all know this because you're here and you're standing for a reason. You know, it's time for Canada to rise peacefully. And we, you know, we're tired. The people that have been on the forefront of this for a long time are tired. We need to be inspired. We need you to inspire us. And we need you to come out and protect these children. Like I said, whether or not you believe in what we're doing, it doesn't really matter. You believe that we should have rights, right? We'll see you all on the 20th, guys. I'm super excited. We're going to be up to 100 towns and cities. You know, I encourage you all to watch the video link that I'm going to drop in here as soon as we're done. And for you to talk to your husbands and your family members that might be in law enforcement. If you are an organizer, I suggest that you take this video and you show it to your police force and you ask them to pick a side. Are you going to stand to protect the innocent women and children that are standing up well within their rights to exercise their freedom of speech? Or are you going to stand on the side of government tyranny that set out to destroy the family unit and to remove your ability to become a parent? This is your call to action to everybody that's watching. You need to reach everybody you know, everything that you can touch, and you need to share this story far and wide that the government officially, well, not the government, the unions officially got caught orchestrating probably the biggest counter protest that we could possibly dream of ever happening in Canada. So don't leave us out there by ourselves. We need your help and we need your support. So, thank you for listening. I'm very passionate about this. I'm very frustrated today because I can't believe that this is happening. I can't believe that this is our country. And we're going to push and we're going to make this happen. And we're not going to back down. I do still stand firm on the fact that, you know, women and children should probably hold out of the Hands Off Our Children protest in Ottawa. I'm not saying don't go because I'm sure that they're going to need support in there too. What I'm saying is, you know, Ottawa and Toronto for sure is probably not going to be a great place to bring your kids because anyway, thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry that I'm not a really professional podcaster. You know, I'm a mom just like you guys. I love my children. I love my country. You know, I'm very passionate about it. I will be there on the front lines. I've been arrested for this once. Not for doing anything wrong, by the way. And if I can do this at 5'5" and 134 pounds, you can too. There is no reason for anybody to think that it is somebody else's responsibility as these things are starting to flush out across our country and we're seeing more and more of it all the time. The most dominant thing that I hear from people is, well, all that stuff is out there. Why isn't anybody doing anything about it? Because it's up to us to do something about it. Because the people of authority in this country has declared war on the rights of Canadians. We have to stand up and we have to stand up now. This is your action call. This is your action call as podcasters. This is your action call as law enforcement. This is your action call as military. This is your action call as bikers. This is your action call as truckers. I would like to see in every single march that we have a love circle put around them so that they can stop these people from calling innocent people racist, bigots, Nazis. I can't believe somebody in the unions actually called innocent parents Nazis. It's your call to action. It's go time. We will not be intimidated and we will not back down. We are here to have a peaceful march If anything happens, the blood will be on the hands of the unions. If one child is harmed in this country because of the controlled opposition that is being paid for by these unions, we all know now who is accountable, and it won't be us. Thank you for listening. Reach out. Start the movement now. We have 3 days to amount a bigger presence than what they're about to roll out across our country. Send letters to these NAEP people and CUPE in them and tell them how morally wrong that they are and how on the wrong side of history they are. If these people are your unions, reach out to them and say that, you know what, you don't belong to any union that goes to suppress innocent families and to chant hate in front of children. It is disgraceful. And I cannot believe that this is the country that I live in. And I will fight for my country, and I will fight for my family, and I will fight for my children until I have nothing left. And there's many of us that stand in this country that feel the same way. So it's time for us to go to work, people. Here's your call to action. Everybody that's watching, that's on side, I expect you guys to do at least 5 things to support what I'm saying, because it's time for us to pick a side, because we just flushed it out. We know exactly who's responsible for these things. And we know that the LGBTQ aren't rising against us because we have LGBTQ sitting with us. We know that this is the government trying to force an agenda now. It's all played out in plain sight. I'll drop that link inside. I will see you tomorrow with an update. Thank you very much for chiming in, and www.1millionmarchforchildren.com. Find a place in your area, form your circles around your families, and cut out those nasty bad guys who have no morals and no values, who want to strip you of everything that you feel you're entitled to as a human being. Much love and peace, my friends. Thank you. Bye.
It's going to be one heck of a week. It's going to be a heck of a week. From the sounds of it. I wish things hadn't deteriorated to this point. I don't know. I can only say, whatever you do this week, folks, I'm not telling anybody what to do. Just whatever you do, protect yourselves, do what you think is right for your families. You just make your own decisions. Think before you act. Stay calm. Think. I would say don't do anything illegal. If you think it's wrong, don't do it. Don't do anything illegal. Stay peaceful. If you get involved. If you go fishing, that's okay too. But clearly, this is coming to a head. You heard what she said. Let's pray that we're able to keep the peace. Keep the peace. Let's wrap it up there. I'll be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Stay safe. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.